Hello viewers, welcome back to Miss Zoology. Today's topic is in continuation with a playlist of endocrine system. Today we'll learn more about the thyroid gland, which is the largest endocrine gland in the human body. Here you can see a beautiful image of butterfly. This butterfly symbolizes the thyroid gland because the shape of the thyroid gland is like that of a butterfly. Well, you can see here it is a bilobed structure, quite in the shape of a butterfly. Where is it exactly located? This gland is located exactly in front of your neck. There are two lobes generally, one left lobe and another right lobe. Both these lobes are connected by a connector called isthmus. This isthmus runs between the cartilage number 2 to cartilage number 4 on the trachea, while the two lobes, if we look at the position of the vertebrae, it would be extending between the cervical vertebra number 5 up to the thoracic vertebra number 1. That is in between C5, C6, C7 and T1. More than this, if we see what is this thyroid gland bound by on both the sides, we would see the larynx, which is called the Adam's apple, or the thyroid cartilage is just above the thyroid gland, and below the thyroid gland we would find the continuation of the trachea, and on the opposite side it is the continuity of the vertebral column, which extends with the thoracic vertebra 2 and beyond. If we go to the next image, we see other than just the two lobes of the thyroid gland, there is also an extra lobe which is shown in the center. It is not necessary that everyone will have this lobe in their thyroid gland. But yes, this is present in more than 50% of the people. This is called the pyramidal lobe. This pyramidal lobe is not necessarily present in everyone. This too is the location which is shown with an extra hyoid bone which is just above the Adam's apple. The rest you can see the cricoid cartilage which is shown just above the isthmus. So these are more perfect locations shown on the middle diagram. Towards the right, you can see a structure through the gland. This is showing the internal structure of the glandular cells. You can see 4 of these glandular cells are shown here, which is lined with the follicular cells, and these follicular cells are the one who secrete thyroxine, and that deposits inside the gland as colloidal substance. In between the glandular cells, we can see certain blood capillary. This is shown because the thyroid gland is very highly vascularized. Thyroid gland, other than just possessing the follicular cells, also possess some smaller sized, less numerous parafollicular cells. These parafollicular cells are also known as C cells. These C cells prevalently produce calcitonin, a next hormone produced by the thyroid gland. Here also the diagram is quite a similar diagram but more remarkably shown with the cells called follicular cells becoming columnar kind or elongated kind. When does that happen? the follicular cells become elongated when they have to secrete more of this hormone. That is, when they are in hyperactive condition. Here towards the right in the diagram, you can see the follicular cells have been shown as a continuous layer which is trapping the colloidal secretion at the center, but within this follicular cells you can see some scattered blue colored cells or purple colored cells, not continuously there. They are the C cells which produce calcitonin. Now we go to the next image, where if the hormone which is produced by the thyroid gland, the basic hormone is thyroxine. It comes in two forms, either T3 or T4. T3 is triiodothyronine and T4 is tetraiodothyronine, which is more popularly known as thyroxine. Both these T3 and T4 are called the thyroid hormones. Then we have the C cells, which is the parafollicular cells, who can produce calcitonin, which is another hormone. Comes to the thyroid hormone, which is produced by the follicular cells in the form of T3 and T4. Say in case the T3 and the T4 are not produced in the required proportion, then an instruction comes through the anterior pituitary via the TSH. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, which in turn is regularized by the release of thyrotropic releasing hormone, which comes via the hypothalamus. So control of the hypothalamus is on the anterior pituitary, and the anterior pituitary through a tropic hormone or stimulating hormone called the thyroid stimulating hormone gives an instruction to the follicular cells in thyroid to secrete more thyroxine. This is indeed called a feedback mechanism. Why? It is only because when the secretion is happening less via the follicular cells of the thyroid gland, the message which is delivered via the TRH and the TSH is secrete more. So when less secreted, the instruction given is secrete more. That's why this is called a feedback mechanism of the negative kind. On the other hand, if the secretion is in excess compared to the normal, then the feedback mechanism will be prompting to secrete less. All these normal way of functioning of the feedback mechanism is through a negative feedback with a few exceptions. Here you can see it's written that negative feedback loop, which comes starting from the brain via the hypothalamus, who releases thyrotropic releasing hormone and then instructs the pituitary, the anterior pituitary to secrete TSH, who will come and instruct the follicular cells in the thyroid to secrete more T3 and T4, and thus bringing about the normal required concentration of the hormone in the blood. Within the cells, we have the T3 binding cells, which is capable of binding with the receptors, and that controls the transcription of the specific genes by turning them on and off as and when it is required. Next, we come to the effect that the thyroid gland produces on the body. The range of action of the thyroid gland is quite large. It affects from the brain to the lower organs in the reproductive system as well. In the brain, it affects the functioning of the brain along with the mood swings. The heart, it regulates the heartbeat and also the rate of oxygenation. For the digestive system, it can indeed affect the rate at which the energy is used and the process of digestion itself. On the musculoskeletal system, it affects growth as well as development. In the sensory cells and the sensory organs, it affects the function of the nerves and the muscles, allowing them to stretch open or close. For the lungs, it affects the contraction and relaxation of lungs by increasing the strength of the contraction or relaxation. For the liver, it regulates the entire functioning of the liver itself. And reproductive system, it is also that helps in the functioning of the reproductive system as a whole with the production of the gonads. Next, if we find that the secretion of these thyroid hormones are not happening at normal rates, then we suffer from thyroid disorders. These thyroid disorders can be of two different types. When it is secreted less than the normal, we call it hypothyroidism. On the other hand, if the secretion of the thyroxine is more than the normal, then we say the person is suffering from hyperthyroidism. Both of the conditions are not good for the individual. It comes up with several symptoms in the body. Let's see what happens when somebody suffers from hyposecretion from. This is an image of a cretin. When someone suffers from hyposecretion starting from childhood, that individual doesn't gain height. Neither does it have proper mental development. The body looks small-statured. The IQ stays very low. Even the skin, hair, and development of all other body parts do not attain a normal rate. On the other hand, if the secretion of thyroxine goes low in adulthood, that is after attaining maturity, let's see what happens. This is the image of a lady who has already turned matured and is rather in an age group of 50 plus or 60 plus. If the thyroid starts secreting low and undergoes hypothyroidism, what will happen then? There'll be swollen skin with lot of edema all over the body. There'll be swelling in the limbs, hands and legs, and if it is coupled with the deficiency of calcitonin, there can be an expression on the nails as it is shown in the center of the image. This condition is called simple goiter. There is swelling in the neck due to deficiency of thyroxine. During this deficiency, the gland tries to compensate by producing more number of cells and increasing the size of the gland, where the TSH from the anterior pituitary gives an instruction to secrete more. But since iodine deficiency is the prime cause for this enlargement, this is why the iodine being not available, it just cannot produce more thyroxine rather than just by increasing the size of the gland. That's why swollen neck is seen, which is called simple goiter. There is another prime cause for hyposecretion of thyroid, which is called the Hashimoto Thyroiditis. That Hashimoto Thyroiditis is an autoimmune disease where the body's own immune system attacks the soft cells in the body, and here primarily the thyroid gland cells or the follicular cells of the thyroid, thus diminishing the size of the thyroid and leading to less secretion of thyroxine in the body, bringing about a low concentration of the hormone in the body. When thyroxine is secreted more than normal, the condition is called hyperthyroidism. This is basically due to the Graves' disease. This Graves' disease or exophthalmic goiter with protruding eyes is due to the presence of thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin, which is produced in an autoimmune disease. The thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin acts in a similar way like thyroid stimulating hormone. But what is not exactly the same is that it doesn't work on a negative feedback mechanism. There is no one to control its secretion and function. That is why, as a result of this immunoglobulin, the thyroid gland keeps enlarging and starts producing more of energy, which comes up with lot of high metabolic rate in the body, thus bringing about a lot of changes which are not normal to the body. The next hormone produced by the parafollicular cells of the thyroid is calcitonin. This maintains the calcium level in the blood. The way in which calcium level is maintained is by reducing the free calcium ions in the blood. By lowering the calcium levels in the blood through absorption by the intestine being inhibited by calcitonin. The next, it promotes the deposition of calcium into the bones, thus inhibits the osteoclasts and stimulates the osteoblasts. Moreover, it also inhibits the calcium reabsorption in the kidneys, thus excreting the excess of it in the urine. This tends to result in osteoporosis, a condition where the bones cannot replace an adequate amount of the minerals like calcium compared to how much it has excreted or lost. This leads to brittleness and fragility of the bones. This is called osteoporosis. For this session, we conclude here. If you have any doubts or queries, you can put them in the comment box. Even if you have any requests for the next session to be done on a particular topic, you can even post them in the comment box. Thank you for watching. Please do share my video with your friends who may find it useful. Do subscribe to my channel if you still haven't done it, and give a like so that I can get motivated and come up with similar contents. Thank you. Happy watching.